Hey everyone, this is Molly Graves Pryor coming to you again with another race analysis video, this time from the CRCA Club Race number 4 on April 16th, 2022. This one was special to me for a number of reasons, the most important of which was the fact that it was my first one as an official member of the Dave Jordan racing team, something I'm super stoked about. As you can imagine, that added several new wrinkles to the mix for sure. That said, we actually have a change of pace in this video because it's not going to be just my comments, but the comments from a couple of other racers mixed in as well. And to add another wrinkle to that, as you can see, I'm starting off with the rear cam footage as the dominant view. If you want to see the details of how this video is broken out and just get a better sense of what's about to happen, definitely look at the timestamps in the description. This one is a barn burner for sure. With that, you won't hear from me again until about the half-hour mark, and with good reason. So I hope you enjoy, and please let me know what you think about this change of pace in the comments below. Thank you. So welcome back, everyone. As you just saw, that was a little over half an hour, the full totality of the from the start line break that went off. This was completely unplanned, and obviously, and as you saw from the thought bubbles that I had up of my own thoughts in the moment, and the thoughts of people like Sam. It was actually really dynamic, and it was just one of those situations where it was just, let's see where this goes. So, there were a number of things that occurred in that break that I commented on that I just wanted to kind of recap a little bit. The first one being that, I took way too many long, hard pulls. Trying to keep the break going, and this is one of those things, and it was a learning lesson for me here, but it was also, one of the things that I talked about with my coach, Rick Sorensen and Vela John. Breaks are a finicky thing, and sometimes you have to be willing to let a break fail if you realize that it's going to require you to, basically go deep into the well in order to keep it going. And that was a situation where I was just so committed to the break that in a way that I should not have been, in a way that, I basically should have been metering my efforts a little bit more. And that would have given me much more energy for when Nat, and I believe his name is Charlie, the guy in green, when they ultimately bridged up. Because as you saw, despite all of the efforts that I, the long pulls that I put in, ultimately it came down to me and Nat. And by that point, by not having bottles with me, and I was an absolute moron, and I realized it because I got literally about 5 minutes away from the house, and I was like, well, crap, I actually do not have enough time to go upstairs to the apartment and then get my bottles and get back for the start line. So, I was already dealing with a deficit there. I had a couple of gels on me, but it was basically just, well, I'm going to have to just rely on my body's natural energy stores and hope for the best. But as you saw, in the second half of that, I was most definitely on the back foot. And I think that was also, I think ultimately we would have been pulled back, but we were pulled back sooner than we should have been. And I think that caused, Nat to have to go into his reserves a lot more than he should have, because instead of being a 50-50 partner in that break, it was really more like 60-40 or 70-30, just simply because of the fact that I was so exhausted from all of those longer, earlier pulls. So this was just, it was by far the longest break that I had been in a local park race. Typically these breaks, they don't last that long, especially when you have so few people. But for some reason or other, and I think primarily due to the interventions of NYCC and my team, Dave Jordan Racing, that probably bought us, quite a bit of time. But, ultimately, if the field wants to drag you back, they will. So, at this point, you can see we're just coming up and over, Harlem Hill, or I should say we just finished coming up and over Harlem Hill. And, just to put it bluntly, like, I'm tired, clearly, from being in that break that whole time and taking all of those pulls. But staying attached was a key aspect of my mindset. And the reason for this was because we basically had, and I say we, Dave Jordan, we basically had a simple game plan for the day. Basically, I try to get into breaks. I chase after any potential breaks that could be dangerous and try to get into them. Because that's my strong suit, and if all else fails, then I lead out our sprinter on the day. His name is Brandon, and so it's just a very straightforward and simple plan. Oh, I had actually forgotten about this. So you can see the gel wrapper that I'm holding. I sometimes forget how wide the camera lens field of view is sometimes. But yeah, that's an unintentional advertisement for accelerated second surge. But yeah, I drink the chocolate with caffeine, or I should say I eat the chocolate with caffeine to refuel. So anyway, that was the basic plan on the day, was to go for a break. It definitely was not the plan to go for a break right off the start line. I just happened to see it unfolding in real time first when Andrew and Brandon went off. And so I'm kind of rolling and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, you know, 2 people in this park, they're likely not going to be able to stay away. But then when I saw Sam roll through, I was just like, okay, he's also rolling through really hard, and you know, I know his wheel, and you know, I'm already here, so let me just latch on here and see where it goes. And then, you know, as you saw, before we know it, you know, we're a 4-man break. So, you know, it was just like, wow, that was completely unplanned, but this also could be fortuitous. So anyway, you also saw, you know, Andrew dropped his chain, and that obviously it caused quite a bit of disarray, and we lost really several minutes of precious time just trying to, you know, settle in, recuperate from that chain drop. But you know, those minutes also allowed Nat and Charlie to bridge up. You know, if Andrew hadn't dropped his chain, there's a possibility that we may have actually been able to stay away for far longer, which may have actually caused you know, Nat and Charlie to never catch us, or they would have had to put in a much longer dig in order to close the gap on us. You know, those are the things you can never really tell. But anyway, we're just gonna kind of get into the heart of the rest of the race, because as I mentioned, you know, from the get-go, this was really dynamic. So this part here, you can actually see that a member of Lonely Hearts just came by Nat and myself, and the biggest reason that I'm actually moving up in the field at the moment is because whenever I see 2 or more teammates heading to the front, especially when they seem to be heading to the front with some sense of urgency, you know, that tends to put me on high alert. And especially because of the fact that, you know, my role on the day was to sniff out any potential break opportunities and make sure that I'm either in them so that Dave Jordan's represented, or that I shut them down. You know, this was a case where it's just like, okay, I've got to put in an effort to get to the front and make sure that I patrol that. And actually saw, that was actually my teammate Brandon, who I just passed on the left. And I was telling him, okay, you know, slot back in, don't do too many digs, you know, because he was on this particular day, he was our protected sprinter. So this was just one of those, basically, you know, it was basically, you know, what I was doing for the remainder of the day. And, you know, I knew, okay, I'd already spent half an hour, you know, doing some really hard efforts in that break. But I was just like, I have other duties to perform on the day. Thankfully, you know, my glycogen reserves had finally kicked in. I was able to eat, you know, some of the gels that I had on hand. And so, you know, by this point, even though I didn't have any drink on me, you know, I was able to kind of, you know, pull it together, as it were. So the last bit that I'll point out here is, as you can see from the arrows, the wind was coming, is basically a straight on southwesterly wind, which means that, you know, on the western side of the course, we were basically going right into a headwind. Obviously, this is a cross, and you can see right now, basically on the inside track, you know, trying to just, again, conserve as much energy as possible. And then coming around, it's a powerful tailwind. So I wanted to put that out there as well because, you saw the pulls that we were taking, the speeds that we were going, those were really difficult pulls on the western side of the course because of the headwind and because of, how strong it was on the day. So yeah, we were doing, 25, 28, 30 miles an hour in some sections. And that was right into a headwind. So, those were not easy pulls by any stretch of the imagination. So I just wanted to, give some additional context there. That being said, right here, you're actually about to see a rider from G4D, come up alongside me and then pass me. And the conversation actually that we were having at the moment was pretty interesting. So his name is Tom. And he actually had said, hey, I saw that you had gotten into that break that we just brought back. I don't know if you remember or not, but you and I were actually in that break on day 3 of the Green Mountain Stage Race, the infamous one where I got the flat tire in a way from the break with my coach and one other cyclist. And so he was just like, hey, keep an eye out. I'm going to try, I'm going to try and initiate, a break. So just keep an eye out on me. And I was just like, okay. So you can see here, I'm basically riding like alongside him, and I'm eating my gels. I'm like, recuperating and getting myself in a position just in case, Tom is able to. He's able to make something happen here. So, we just left Horseshoe Alley, and now, for those of you who've seen, some of my earlier videos, we're coming up through Cat's Paw. And, unlike the prior races, we're actually coming through Cat's Paw with some speed. We're north of 20 miles an hour. There definitely seems to be some urgency, making sure that not lollygagging, because in other races we're coming through here like 16, 17 miles an hour on lap after lap. So this is actually where the promised attack to go off. And as you've seen, there are some overlays that I've been adding in and experimenting with to try and provide some additional flavor. And so, this one coming up right now, it's just to make sure for those of you that maybe didn't know exactly who I was talking about, there you go. That's Tom. He's part of G4D Racing. And I can actually see that he's starting to wind up. And so you can see I'm starting to put out some power to stay attached and see exactly what happens with this. And the field was slowing down. So this was actually a really good attack on Tom's part. But the thing that I realized very quickly is that NYCC, they had multiple people in the field that were basically just going to mark any potential attempt at a break. And so I'm looking back, and as soon as I saw that we had already been marked and shut down by the field, I basically just pulled alongside Tom and I was like, hey, we got to shut it down. They're already here. We didn't get a gap. And so I'm just like, settle in, and let's just see if there's another opportunity. So now here, you can actually see coming up on the left-hand side, that was a really fantastic counterattack by that member of Foundation. And, I'm kind of looking at that, and actually in the moment we were all like, wow, that's a great counterattack, like really great timing. But again, having spent a little over half an hour in a break myself, with, anywhere from 4 to 5 riders, I also knew that a solo person with that headwind on the western side of the course was not going to get very far. And so I wasn't particularly, in a rush to expend any additional bullets, in my chamber. A, because the rest of the field was there, and B, because I also knew that I had a larger job to do as far as working for my team. However, as you probably just spied, there was now a group of 4 or so that was starting to make its way up to that foundation rider, and now the whole field is starting to respond. So again, this is part of the reason why I was not in a state of panic to try and bridge up. Now, the downside here is that because now the entire field is in high alert, and everyone is trying to make a mad dash for the downhill, as you've seen in other videos. A pretty bad crash actually happens right here, and you can barely see it in my rear cam. Now, it didn't happen because people were jockeying for wheels or anything along those lines. It actually happened because one of the racers, I happened to see a clip of the video from another YouTuber's channel. One of the racers, his tubeless tire basically just deflated, just right there, right before we were about to descend, or I should say right before they were about to descend. And so, that, as he's now trying to make that turn into the downhill at, 28, 30, 32 miles an hour, it literally just, the wheel just, or I should say the tire just came right off of the wheel. And so he went down, and it just caused a cascade effect across the field, and it took out a significant portion. And so, including, one of my teammates, Marty, and 3 other of my teammates, Angel, Rob, and Brandon, they were barely able to avoid it, but then they had to put out a massive dig in order to catch back on. So this is actually my teammate right in front of me, 358, his name is John. And I'm just letting everyone know here, hey, there was a massive crash. Just letting you know, we do have separation, so just be aware. It might just be us. I'm not exactly sure how bad it is or who's in it, but just be aware of what's going on. So, thankfully, I think I don't think that anyone had any broken bones or anything like that. I think it was mostly scrapes, bruising, etc. And I caught up with a few people, after the race, and it didn't seem like it was catastrophic. My teammate Marty was definitely banged up. He definitely, kind of looked a little bit like a mummy, but it seemed like it was mostly rash, which in and of itself can sometimes be worse, than a broken bone, because it just impedes your ability to do the simple things like even take a shower without pain. But it seemed basically like it wasn't catastrophic or life-threatening or going to keep someone off the bike for the rest of the season. So that being said, we're gonna skip ahead right here because there are just a couple of things that I wanted to show. We're gonna skip around, and I'm gonna trim some parts of the video out, but you'll see why. So we're just gonna skip ahead right now. So the reason why I wanted to skip ahead to this particular portion of the race is because I wanted to show part of the reason why I train to try and race without nutrition. You're going to see it coming up right here. And so what you just saw was another racer, totally by accident, whether it was a momentary loss of focus or maybe having a little bit of the yips, whatever the reason. Basically in a race, you're so reliant on others to maintain their lines or their equipment that if any of those things go awry, even for a split second, that could cause, catastrophe. And so in that particular case, if I had been, let's say, reaching for a bottle at that particular moment, or reaching for a gel, and I had my hand off the handlebar, that could have been another crash. Instead, I was maintaining my own focus. I saw it happen. I got bumped, and that actually caused a bit of a cascade. And I think that was Andrew from Lonely Hearts, who was right behind me, who he had to then make a shift to avoid me. But I wanted to point that out because, that's just one of those things where you always have to maintain a certain level of vigilance. And so I've actually been in for the past, I'd say 2 or 3 years, I've been working to train myself to, eat enough beforehand, and also just become used to riding on a lower level of nutrition if need be in the middle of a race. And again, just to be on the safe side if I need to, because some races are sketchier than others. So I just wanted to point that out to you. The other part through here, for that particular piece, the other part through here that I wanted to point out is, just the nature of surfing wheels, being in the front but not being on the front, pushing the pace. And so you see, I was behind under 4 riders or so, and then I saw Nat coming up, so I had to slot it in onto his wheel. Because again, my goal here is just to monitor any potential opportunities for people to get into a break if that is going to happen, but not to expend any additional energy than I need to. So basically just to cover. And so you can see right here, I took the wheel, I moved up to the front, but then I didn't actually get on the front. I let a couple of other people get in front of me so that I could be there just in case anything happened, but not in a situation where I'm basically driving the train. And so this is just one of those things also that I've learned how to do over the past year since really taking racing seriously, is how to do this efficiently, how to do it effectively, and always keep yourself in a place where you can respond. And I actually had a comment from one of the other racers that I was racing with at the Trooper Field, which I have the race footage from that one, and that was actually a pretty fun outcome. And I'll be posting that up after I get this one in the Luke Rally Field, which was the following day from this race. Once I get those up, he actually came up to me. His name is Leo, and he's a coach, and he was just like, I've noticed that you just have an ability to just fluidly and seamlessly move up into the front, and then kind of drift and move up and just kind of maintain your position, but it seems like you're not expending that much energy. And I took that as a huge compliment, and it's been a point of pride because it's really difficult to do, and I've had to spend quite a lot of time learning how to do it effectively and not overthink it. But now, after doing it again, like I mentioned, for the last year or so, it's starting to basically just come naturally to me. So that's just something I just wanted to mention with respect to surfing in surfing wheels, especially when you're surfing wheels into a headwind. So we're actually going to skip ahead again to another part of the race that I want to highlight. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to skip ahead because this was actually a particularly dynamic race, and later on in that lap, I'm actually looking here, and I'm 5 alarm fire right now because I'm seeing what looks like 5, if not 7, NYCC riders all up on the front, and I'm just danger, danger, danger. Because if they try to send someone up the road, they have a legion that can that can basically successfully block the field, especially coming up Harlem Hill, or if they try to and send a few people of their own up the road, they're effectively going to be true teammates working together. So, I am on high alert, and that's why you see, at the moment, I am just working my way up to the front because I'm like, I need to make sure I understand exactly what's going on in this field. Make sure that nothing is going to go off without a Dave Jordan representative or representation in it. But as I get up to the front, I basically see that everyone's chilling. And so I'm just like, whew, okay, good. Because that's, that's some bullets that I don't have to, use in this situation. And I can kind of just, mark what's going on and keep stock of what's going on and kind of gauge everyone's body language, but without having to, go deep in the well. Because again, as I said, I have multiple roles on this day. As my first race being a member of Dave Jordan is try and mark and cover and or get into a break myself. And as you can see here, that's John again. And we basically had, a similar plan of just staying near one another. And then if all of that fails and it comes down to a field sprint, lead Brandon out. So we're basically, I'm basically in plan A at the moment. So I just wanted to show this to you, but I am going to skip ahead again because I wanted to show you one of the things that was really new to me this particular race, and that was a case of teammate communication. So we just skipped ahead, maybe about a couple of miles or so on the western side of the course. And the biggest thing here is I'm actually riding next to my teammate, John, and he's filling me in that, the person that's way up ahead is actually the leader jersey. And I had missed it at that particular moment in time. I didn't see that he had moved up, but I realized, oh, that's NYCC, and I'm way, way, way back. So you can see right here, I actually decide to, again, because a part of my duties was to, close the gaps on anything, I put in, a dig to get myself up to the front to make sure that if anything goes off, and I'm looking at those two that are off the front at the moment, that we have some Dave Jordan representation. And so, I told John to sit tight at this point, keep himself fresh, because if I end up using up all of my energy, he's going to need to be the one that leads Brandon out. So, I made my way up to the front here and basically saw, okay, they're not going anywhere. So the leader jersey, this is Erkko actually just ahead. But they're not really going anywhere. And so I'm just like, okay, good. That's perfect. I did my job there. I used a little bit of energy to get myself up to the front, just to make sure that, we covered what was happening. But other than that, since nothing was happening, just basically, slot in, and if I see an opportunity, if I see something going down, which as you can see right here, something is definitely going down, at the moment, and I just remembered it now seeing in the video, but there was an attempt by erkko and NYCC to get into a break. So I was basically doing 500 to 650 watts to close this down and get into it, and looking at the fact that the field was basically also there as well, it was just like, okay, this is perfectly fine. That attempt to go off fizzled out. The field is here, and so we've done our job basically, which is to make sure that nothing goes off without some representation from Dave Jordan, and keep our chances intact. And I have to say, this is one of the things that was like really invigorating for me. You know, this being my first time, you know, racing, you know, with this team, is the added dimension of these type of tactics, and seeing things from the perspective of, you know, what is my role on the team and what am I here to do and how do I facilitate that as much as possible. It's just, you know, it's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm actually going to skip ahead again because there was some additional communication that went down, you know, between John and myself, and I just want to talk about that and highlight that and why it's important. So the conversation that you just heard, that was actually between me and John, and I was basically explaining to him that, you know, after the, you know, the two and change lap or so that I had gone off with at the beginning of the race, that down these efforts and so on and so forth, that I basically only had like one major massive bullet left. And, you know, I said, look, you know, how do you feel? If you have, you know, some energy reserves left and you want to try and, you know, get into some breaks, then I will work to try and cover any bridge attempts or shut down any bridge attempts that may go off. Otherwise, right now, I'm trying to decide, you know, do I save what little I have left, you know, for Brandon, or if there's, you know, a potential opportunity to get into another break, do I use it then? And so I was just like, you know, I'm not really sure, but I just wanted to make sure that you're informed about where I am and how much do I really have left in the tank. So I just wanted to highlight that exchange in particular because, again, this was just one of those things where, you know, being part of a team and making sure that I'm constantly communicating with my teammates. That's something that's always been something that, you know, I thought would be critical if I were a member of the team, and it just came naturally, and it was something that you know, I tried to focus on, and, you know, John also, he reciprocated, you know, in the race and just letting me know, you know, how he thought about things and opportunities that he saw as well. So we were kind of able to play off of each other in that regard. So that being said, we're going to actually skip ahead for time because I think in this particular one, you're going to see something a little bit different. So as I mentioned just before, I'm going to do a little something different here. Coming up, you're actually going to see me decide to try my one solo attack on the day. And you'll also be able to see basically how it went down. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to show the solo attack commentary. And then I'm going to replay it, but this time with the commentary. And so see if you can figure out exactly when you think I'm going to go and why you think I go. So I'll be curious to see what you guys say, you know, in the comments on this one, if you're so inclined. So you had an opportunity now to watch my counterattack without the commentary. So now we're going to watch it again, but this time with my commentary. So going back to the very beginning of this particular, of the start of this, I'm actually seeing this group of about 8 to 10 riders up the field. There's a little bit of a gap, and I'm like, okay, this looks like it could be potentially promising. But obviously, I'm just like, well, I'm not going to put in any effort to try and bridge up to that because they're only maybe a second up on the field, and I'm actually seeing that in trying to close this gap, you have G4D and NYCC and FCT in front of me, doing everything that they can to close it. But then everyone stops pedaling, and I'm seeing it starting to spread across the field. I'm looking at my speed. I'm like, we're still doing 31 miles an hour. So I start to see this opening on the right hand just coming, and I'm like, does it open? I'm like, yes! And you saw my power spike, and I was just like, this is a perfect opportunity to put in a counter because everyone is starting to slow down. Well, as you saw, everyone basically was kind of caught off guard for just a second. But unfortunately, I got ratted out. I got ratted out by my counter by another alert. He was Davis from NYCC Racing, and I caught up with him. On Strava, and I was like, "You rat bastard! You're the one who called me out, saying, he was the one saying, slowing, watch the counter." And he was like, "Yeah, that's one of the advantages of being 6'4". So it was just one of those situations where I was just like, oh, you killed me. But it was also one of those things where I also realized that at this particular point in time, no other efforts were going to go off without the field responding if it was truly dangerous. And, I didn't put in too deep of a dig because I was concerned about making sure that I conserved, energy to lead Brandon out. So I felt okay with it. So coming up here, actually, this is Davis right here on the right, 387, and you see he just waved to be let in, and I was like, okay, take it. Well, I didn't realize that, in the moment in the race, I didn't realize that he was the one that had ratted me out. So, Davis, I'm just letting you know right now, if I had known that you were the one that had ratted me out at that particular moment in time, I should have left you out in the wind. No, I mean, I kid, because that's just like, that is like the beauty of racing and, counter team tactics and just, my coach calls it having your head on a swivel and just having race awareness. And sometimes, and it's a trick that I've played. It's like, you speak up and, you let people know about what someone is doing because you want the field to do something that you don't want to necessarily do, but that is absolutely important. So he did it, and the field responded much faster than they would have, otherwise. The last thing I'll say before we skip ahead to the final part of the final couple of parts of the race, and then you actually get to see me lead out my teammate Brandon, as I showed you, that was Jack, who had bridged up to me, and he was just like, wow, nice job, just because I had put in such a well-timed counterattack on that point. It just didn't work because I got sniffed out. So we're going to skip ahead right now, and I'm actually going to show you how I was basically on high alert to make sure that no other attack attempts went off at this point because we were so close to the finish line. Because at this point, I'm just like, Brandon, we are now going from, he was basically plan B for Brandon. That has now become the prime to finish out the race. So we're going to skip ahead now. So we've just skipped ahead. We're just past Harlem Hill and descending that same lap. And this is actually Nat on the left, who you've seen before. And in the multicolored jersey, that's Erkko. And as you can see, the nice little overlay pointing him out to you. And I saw them talking to one another at this point, and I'm like, okay, that's a big problem, because I know how strong Nat is, and I know how strong Erkko is. And so when I saw them chatting, I immediately knew that something was afoot, and my alarm bells went off. So when they attacked, as you saw, I'm right on them. And that's a case of, just having field awareness. And you see right here, I'm not taking any pulls. I'm letting, the two of them rotate and do the work. And the reason for this is, again, because my thought is not my own result at this point. My thought is, making sure that I try and set Brandon up for as much success as possible. So you can see Nat elbowed me through, and I'm not going. Because again, since I'm on Team Dave Jordan at this point, and we are so close, and I'm like, okay, Brandon is the primary for the result, I'm like, why would I help the yellow get to the finish line and take Brandon out of the running, especially because I know that I'm not sure how much energy I've got after spending an hour and a half covering other break attempts, trying to get into my own, surging, attacking, counterattacking. I don't have my drinks on me, so I'm just like, it would be like team self-sabotage, basically, to try and get a break to go, especially, at this juncture, because the field is really going to be on high alert with basically only, at this point, only like a lap or so to go. So, I've got my own guy to worry about. That's what's going through my head. And, one of the other things that I did at that point was I said, and that's actually Tom, going off on his own, solo attack. And I actually did mention to a couple of guys, I was just like, he actually could potentially stick this. Just to, again, some gamesmanship, and just to see if anyone would try and close the gap, for me. And you can see a couple of other people are going. I'm staying up here, not putting out that much power, because I'm also trying to see what the field is going to do. And right on cue, the field comes around, starts speeding up, and we eventually did, drag them back. But what I was saying before is that when Nat was flicking me through, I actually said, "Hey, the field is here," even though the field wasn't there. And, that was one of those situations. It's just a bit of gamesmanship at the moment, just because I just wanted them to kind of ease up, even if just a little bit, so that I wouldn't have to put in any additional energy, and I could save some, just that much more. To basically let the field catch back on, and then leave it for Brandon. Again, that's the biggest thing that I have on my on my mind at that particular point, and also at this point is whatever I've got left, I've got to make sure that I work it out for Brandon. So we're going to skip ahead one more time, and you're actually going to see the end game of this race, and what that actually looked like in terms of the leadout trains, and how I was ultimately able to get Brandon to the finish line. So we're going to skip ahead right now. So we're here in the final stretch of the race, and as we're coming through here, I'm looking around, and I've got actually Brandon on my rear wheel. And so I'm like, okay, this is a good sign. Let's see what happens here, because throughout the course of the day, basically just in numbers and also in organization, NYCC, they were basically the ones that were, for all intents and purposes, dictating a lot. And when you have that many people in the field, and you also have a very clear game plan with respect to the yellow jersey, it's really easy to do that. So I'm looking at them, at this particular point in time, because I also know, like I mentioned before, we basically lost most of the members of our team in the crash that had gone down earlier in the race. So I see Nat pull out here, and he's putting in some digs, and I'm seeing kind of several other NYCC riders congregating on the front. So again, I am on high alert right now, and I'm like, okay, they're starting to form some semblance of a coordinated effort to set up a lead-out train. And so right now I'm just thinking to myself, okay, Brandon, I hope you're there. I saw you there earlier. Just stick near me, because I think that things are about to go off. So right here you can actually see that's Erkko again. He's on the front basically. I was actually a little surprised, because I'm like, okay, you would think that you would want, your protected lead out guy to be behind a few more wheels, but he actually took the front and put in like a pretty hard effort to get the speed up. So I'm just latched on, and I'm like, okay, things are really about to pop off. The speed is picking up. I'm having to dig up into the 400s. I need to make sure that I stay attached. But you can also see I'm not the only one that has this idea. Foundation is up here as well. Jack is right behind me. And actually, I made a mistake. That wasn't Erkko. This is actually Erkko right here. It would happen to be another person. I think that actually might have been Aaron, actually. That might have been Aaron. I'll have to validate that, but yeah, this is Erkko directly in front of me, 356, and so if that is Aaron, he's basically trying to shake people off of this wheel. But now I'm like, okay, there's Erkko right there. There's a couple of other NYCC people, sandwiched in between the foundation, and then I'm looking behind me, and I'm like, right behind me, there's also more foundation. So I'm like, okay, they're definitely going to set this up. So, someone just tried to counter, and I actually, yelled out, hey, left, because I'm like, NYCC at this point with less than, you have less than half a lap to go, basically, they're going to be on high alert, because, they're going to want to get their guy to the line. So we're coming through here. I'm staying attached, like a dog with a bone. And as I'm seeing NYCC, really setting up and gearing up the pace, the big thing that I'm also doing here is I'm not going to interrupt their lead out train. And this is actually one of the things that I've learned, looking at other YouTubers and watching a lot of races. It's kind of like, for lack of a better phrase, it's kind of a dick move to try and inject yourself into someone else's train. I mean, you're going to have to fight them, and they will fight you tooth and nail to get it, to try and kick you out. But if you're also a member of a smaller team, it can sometimes just be to your advantage to not make waves, not make enemies, and let them do their own setup. And so I'm thinking, I've got to set up for Brandon, and I'm actually taking the outline, just to give you some notice, I'm taking the outside line here to make sure that no other NYCC riders can come around, add to the line. Because I'm like, I like being fourth wheel, getting ready to go up into Harlem Hill. And I'm just thinking, okay, Brandon, I hope you're there. You got to be there. So we're actually going to flip over, and we're going to basically watch the lead out, but without my commentary. So you can see what it looks like and hear everything as it happened. just saw the lead out that I gave for Brandon. And now we're going to watch the same sequence play out, but this time I'm going to comment. So coming through here, all I know is that, you know, I have to get to the top of this with a ton of speed. I'm seeing actually up ahead, it ended up being a massive attack that went off by nycc and erkko, and I believe Jack were able to get away. And I'm looking at this, and you can see I'm just like digging as hard as I can, and that's Brandon actually right there. I didn't know he was there, but I'm literally just thinking in my head, oh, for God's sake, I hope you're coming up. I hope you're coming up. And so he actually said, you know, by the descent coming into Harlem Hill, he knew he had to be in the front in order to have a decent shot at the field sprint. And so once Harlem Hill came in, he noticed that, you know, I was the only one from Dave Jordan who was a potential lead out in front of him. So he was like, you know, that's when I decided to fight to your wheel so, you know, that I could lead him to the door. And as you saw in the no commentary section, he announced, he said, "I'm here, Malik." And I was just like, oh, thank God, because I'm at this point, I'm running on fumes. So basically what I do here is I'm like, I have basically like bottom of the gas tank left, and I noticed that Veselka actually came out on the left-hand side. And I was like, I can't let anyone else get in front of me. You know, 3 people in front of me is enough. So I've got to, basically what I did here is I decided to swing out a little wide, you know, or I should say sweep out wide, because I didn't do it, you know, hard, but it was to make sure that it discouraged anyone else from trying to take that left line. So at this point, I'm like, let me just stay in behind these 3 in front of me and then take that left lane that I cleared out earlier and go through as hard as I can, because I'm just like, I'm almost out of gas. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. And then as this is happening, a massive crash happens behind us. And so I'm just like, just keep going. And I'm trying to actually communicate that to Brandon at the moment and just hoping he gets the picture. And then finally, when he gets in front of me, I say, go, 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 because we were literally like maybe 30 feet from the finish line. And the reason why I didn't say anything, and you know, Brandon and I caught up. We caught up after the race, and he agreed with this wholeheartedly. Was because if I had said something earlier, it would have basically gotten all the sprinters going even harder, which is basically what happened. But Brandon's sprint is so explosive that basically he went from like 15th place up to 9th in the span of about 15 to 20 feet. And we were talking about it after the race, and we were just like, man, you just needed to go earlier, because I basically had gotten up to 3rd, you know, the third place overall, because the top 2 were taken by Jack and erkko. But I was tapped out, as you saw. Like I could not go any faster than that. If he had launched right then and there, he would have got podium. And you know, Brandon said, you know, you gave me a perfect lead out. I just was unsure at the moment, and I hesitated sprinting into the left lane because I was concerned about you. And I actually told him, I was like, don't worry about me. I was like, I left that left lane open for you so that you could take it. So, you know, we had some kinks to work out. But considering that this was the first time that, you know, we had actually like ridden together in any capacity, you know, raced together, and this was literally a skeleton plan. You know, the thing that we both said to each other was, for our first time, that was really seamless, and it actually worked really well. And now it's just about honing, you know, our tactics and making sure that we get our timing right. Yeah, this was just a phenomenally fun race. As I've, you know, hopefully I've conveyed, there was a lot of tactics, a lot of attacks, counterattacks, breakaways, leadouts. And I have to say, I've just had so much fun as with this being my first race for Dave Jordan. And I'm just really looking forward to many more races to come. So with that said, you know, we're coming to the end of this video. I have the race from the next day after this at Prospect Park. as well as the race from the Trooper David Brinkroff, the second race, queued up. And those are really fun as well. A lot more team tactics going on in the Lucarelli race, and then you get to see me actually sprinting pretty well, actually in the Trooper road race. So those will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to watch and listen and provide your feedback. And if you enjoy these videos, definitely please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I definitely have a lot of fun making them, and I'm trying to figure out ways to make them even better, make them more enjoyable. So again, definitely please leave your feedback about some of the changes that I made. I'm experimenting with some new things, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.